Welcome to the Inside Japan podcast, which is sponsored by JobsinJapan.com, the best place to find your next job in Japan. Today, I'm talking with my friend Ben Silverman, who is the owner and manager of Flex Coach, and he's going to give us some amazing tips on how to stay fit and healthy in Japan. Hey, Ben, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me here, Charlie. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, it's awesome to see you. So I want to start off with just how you got into coaching in Japan.
Well, that's honestly quite a long story, so I'm going to try to keep it short for all of our listeners. But basically, it started out as a kid. I was skinny and I had a lot of anxiety problems. So I naturally started looking into, self-improvement and how to build confidence due to that. And I ended up actually getting into martial arts before I got into coaching. And that naturally transitioned into teaching. And then in Japan, I realized that Taekwondo has a very limited range of effect, and I wanted to help as many people as I could outside of just self-defense, and that's how I sort of discovered personal training and nutrition coaching and like how there's all of these much more fragmented and parts of your life that affect your health and well-being outside of just, do you work out or, do you eat well? To put it shortly, I guess.
Yeah, because I went a couple of weeks ago. We went together and worked out in Daikanyama, and it was really fun. And I was just telling you before we started this podcast that there was something you taught me that was really helpful. But I think it kind of alluded to a sort of philosophy of kind of like minimalistic working out, right? It's not like you should be hitting it hard 7 hours a day at the gym, but more like what is the most effective way to get the biggest possible gains you can for the smallest amount of time, especially if you're a working professional, you're a consultant or you're working in a big Japanese company, or even if you're just a teacher like me, then, you end up not having enough time to get to the gym as much as you'd like to. So can you tell a little bit about some of that advice that you gave me?
Yeah, sure. I think you covered a lot of the really important points already, but let me elaborate a little bit more. Is the key thing you said is efficient, I think. A lot of people, including this was myself years ago, think that more is better, and this comes from all aspects of our life, right? Like eating less, doing a harder diet is better, making more money is better, doing more is always better. But when it comes to working out and exercise, that's not always true, right? So really you want to be stimulating growth and stimulating change in your body, not destroying your muscles, not destroying your digestion system, So that's why what you said, efficient, is really so important. The biggest thing that people can do to exercise better is think of how can they encourage their body to grow without destroying it. So that means really focusing on effective movements and not doing too much, knowing your limits. That's really, I think, the best advice I can give to people is not do too much.
Right. So if we focus on like the Japan side of things, so I know a lot of people, the first thing that I recognized was that gyms here are a lot more expensive than the UK, like 4 times more expensive. I guess because fewer people in Japan work out, it might not be as popular, so it's harder to get that sort of competition in there. But also the food is so different, right? Like the kind of food that you eat. So I definitely lost a lot of weight when I came to Japan, but it's kind of difficult if you have like some special diet you want to do. So, what are some of the issues that you see with people kind of moving to Japan, like either gaining weight or losing muscle? Like, what are some of the things that change when people come to Japan?
Yeah, I think the 2 major things that change is, one, the amount of exercise they get, especially when it comes to working out. Like you mentioned, gyms are much more expensive here. So is personal training. And not only are they more expensive, but they're limited in location and accessibility, right? So where I lived in America, I could hop in a car and drive 5 minutes to the closest gym and, do a daily workout for $7. Whereas in Japan, you get roped into very expensive monthly payments and contracts. And then, if you don't go, it's easy to feel like you're wasting your money, and then you just stop. So there's definitely, you stop working out as much, and you don't have that atmosphere that encourages working out because it's not valued as much in Japan. The second thing I see is a lot of changes in people's diet. So you mentioned you lost a lot of weight, and you also will lose muscle because it's a lot harder to get protein in Japan. Well,
much
not
more
just
expensive
protein.
Too. Much more expensive. Yeah.
In general, food for cooking, like supermarkets, I find are much more expensive than they are in America. So this is vegetables, fruits, meat, like all of these foods that you need to cook a healthy, balanced diet are much more pricey. Whereas eating out is a lot cheaper and easier because the level of food, as I'm sure you know, restaurants in Japan are just amazing. Whereas, in America, I think it's easy you see a huge gap in food, right? If you eat out, you'll have some really horrible experiences with restaurants. And then you've got like the Michelin star places and everything in between. Whereas I find in Japan, even the cheap food is up here. Like just the standard is so much higher that it makes it very, very easy to just eat out and not bother like actually thinking, are you eating healthy? So I see that a lot. I see people transition to eating out a lot more, and I see them eating less vegetables and less protein. And then not having an environment that encourages them or supports people that want to work out. I see this in things like, not so much this year because of COVID, but before COVID, drinking parties, work drinking parties is a really big issue. And I think it's hard for people to maintain a exercise regimen after work when they're constantly be inviting out to drinking and looked down on or not included if they don't do that.
Right. So what are some ways that you can take control of that then? Because I don't want to miss out on the drinking parties with my coworkers and stuff, because like you said, you kind of not get shamed for it, but you just kind of miss out on stuff. Like you miss out on drama, you're not really included, and it's less interesting. You don't want to miss out on that stuff, but how can you sort of like take control of the food that you are eating when you do have control of that? And how can you maybe like prepare some meals at home or find better alternatives at eating out?
So, I mean, we could break it down into a couple of different parts. I think one is, how do you manage the work environment where there's a lot of temptation to go out and drink that can ruin your schedule. And then there's the nutrition side. For the like making time to work out, it can be very difficult, to be honest. I think, if you turn down your Japanese colleagues enough, they stop inviting you.
Right.
And that's a reality. I think that's not as much of an issue now because we can't really do that anymore. But what you can do is you can schedule your workouts for the morning. So if you wake up a little bit earlier, or you make time in the day to get them done, then you don't have to worry about doing them later on or not doing them. Another key thing is to think that you don't have to work out every day, right? And a lot of people, they'll make a schedule for themselves, like Monday I'm going to do legs, Tuesday I'm going to do chest, Wednesday I'm going to do back. And if I can't do that schedule, then I'm not going to do anything. And they have this very perfectionist 100% attitude, which it's either everything or nothing, which I think is very detrimental to your exercise regime. Instead, if you think it a little bit more flexibly, which is, look, I'd like to spend 2 to 3 hours a week exercising, and it doesn't really matter how I get that done. It gives you a lot more flexibility to work around your schedule. So if, today we have this podcast. So what I did is I knew that I might not be able to work out this evening. So I took 10 minutes in the morning and did just a couple of little things to get going. And then I took a little time in lunch to do the remainder 30 minutes. And that got me a 40-minute workout split up through the day.
Yeah, that's some good advice, because I remember when COVID started and all the gyms shut down, one of the first things I did was I bought a little bit of stuff at home, because my gym refunded me that month's payment. I was like, okay, so it cost me like 8,000 yen or whatever it was for the month for the gym. So I bought some bands and a kettlebell. And so having a kettlebell at home, like you swing that thing around for 10 minutes and you're exhausted. That's really hard work. So, if I don't have time to, because for me it's also like going to the gym, it's like I have this kind of regimen of what I want to do, and so if I work really, really hard at the gym, then I have to, by the time I come home and shower and drink a protein shake, it's like an hour and a half, right? So it's quite a big chunk. So if I have to be at my job at 11:30, or if I'm filming something for my YouTube channel, or if I've got a client meeting or something across town, that's really, really hard to fit in. So just having okay, I can do 10 minutes now, and I can do like 30 minutes later. I've got a kettlebell in the house, I'll swing that thing around for a little while, and that'll sort of suffice for now.
Yeah, exactly. You don't have to do the perfect workout. You nailed it. Like you can do what you can with what you have. And the thing is, those little things add up to a lot. I mean, to be honest, I haven't done a hour-long workout in God knows how long. at max I work out 30, 40 minutes, and I think I'm in pretty good shape, to be honest. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of evidence that you don't need to spend all of that time that, like, you know, you see those guys in the gym for 2 hours. You don't need to do that unless you're a professional bodybuilder. And to be honest, I have questions. Even then, it might not be completely necessary, you know?
Right.
So it's just adapting that flexible mindset.
Yeah. Okay, so let's move on to food then, because food is like you said, Japanese food changes your diet completely. But there are a lot of things like kind of fad diets and stuff, like, you know, veganism or keto or like the carnivore diet or something like that. And even intermittent fasting, which I've tried before in the past and I stopped doing because I found myself getting hangry, which is hungry and angry, hangry. And so it wasn't good for me. Like, it was really good for my body. I had like great gains, but then it was also like I didn't want to be angry. But so what do you do with food in Japan? Like, how easy is it to control your diet when, you know, what can you kind of look for to allow you to sort of stick to, or even just like loosely maintain something like a vegan or a keto diet?
To be honest, I'm not a huge fan of all the different diets. They all, of course, have benefits and they all have risks that equally can balance each other out. I think personally, it's very difficult to maintain a rigid diet living in Japan. Going back to what we were just talking about, like when you go out to eat, unlike the United States, and I don't know about other Western countries, but at least in America, often there's a lot of information about what's included in your meals, or you can ask and you can make changes. You can ask them to use something else instead. In Japan, they don't have a lot of that information readily available for you. So if you're trying to be strict on a keto diet, for example, it can be really hard to go out and eat. And for me, I think the best diet or the best system is one that you can consistently do that doesn't cause you stress, right?
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't recommend anyone to do some diet that's making their life more difficult. It's supposed to make your life easier, make you feel better about yourself. So really, again, it's going back to that flexible mindset of having a basic understanding of what foods are good for you and what foods you should avoid. I'm not going to say you shouldn't eat things, but there are things that you maybe could eat less of. And then when you go out, making smart choices on the menu. So again, I'm not talking about not eating when you go out with your friends or your coworkers, but you could choose to eat a fish dish instead of, fried chicken karaage dish. Or, you could order the mashed potatoes and butter versus the French fries. You know, there's different choices you can make that are slightly healthier that will help you manage that. It's still difficult to do that, though, if you're on a very strict diet.
Yeah, what about things like cheat days? Like, how do you feel about those? Because I was doing a diet a couple of years ago where the idea was that you are quite strict with yourself during the week, and then on a Saturday or a Sunday or something, you can binge on some chocolate or whatever, and somehow that the calories would sort of balance out and generally be in your favor. Is that a good idea, or would you say that's not something that's that helpful?
Okay, at the risk of sounding like a broken record, I'm going to say the same thing, which is if you can consistently keep to it and it doesn't cause you a lot of stress, then it's fine. Now, when it comes to actually losing weight, I have a big problem with cheat days.
Okay.
Because for two reasons. One, people think, okay, today's my cheat day, so it's okay to eat whatever I want, as much as I want. And while yes, it's okay to splurge a little bit, it's actually surprisingly easy to eat enough calories in that one day to reduce all of that work you did from the week to nothing.
Yeah.
So it takes about 7,000 calories to gain a kilogram of fat. That's not a lot. So for example, if you order a Domino's pizza, I think like half a pizza has 800 calories.
Okay, wow.
Half, not even a whole pizza. So
wow.
If you eat a whole pizza, that's 1,600 calories. If you have, you have an ice cream and you keep eating on top of that, it's not that difficult to really hit 4,000 or 5,000 calories. That's almost a kilogram of fat you might potentially gain. So when it comes to cheat days, if you're able to limit yourself in a way that you can control how much you're eating, then it's fine. But I also think that kind of reduces the purpose of having a cheat day. So instead, what I personally recommend to people is, instead of limiting yourself from the foods you love, don't stop eating them, just be a little bit more responsible about how you eat less healthy food. So if you know something is not great for your diet, it's okay to eat it, but why don't you have it in a slightly limited amount? You know,
Right.
so what I
That's
recommend to
funny,
people.
man. You sound like my mum. There's like the everything in moderation kind of you know, the sort of our parents' generation. It's like maybe some wisdom from the ages that we've just like forgotten, and we're like, no, I'd rather like only eat meat and no carbohydrates whatsoever, and these kind of crazy fad diets that just make it
Yeah,
really difficult for you to pick what you're actually going to eat. But
yeah,
actually, it's just, you know, just yeah, have some sweets or something, but like don't eat a whole chocolate bar. Just have like 2 pieces of dark chocolate after dinner or something. That's fine, you know, and you don't have
exactly.
to feel guilty and terrible about it.
And you just nailed the second reason why I don't like cheat days, is because a lot of times it leaves people feeling guilty. And what
Mm,
happens is then when you start to feel guilty about it, this becomes like, it becomes a habit response, right? So you start reacting in a certain way to these emotional influences on you, which is again moving away from the purpose of why you're trying to eat healthy, right? You shouldn't be dieting or doing this just to lose weight. It should be about becoming healthier and coming into a better, happier place in your life. And if you're
right,
feeling guilty about eating, then you're not really enjoying it, right?
right,
So
right,
instead, like,
exactly.
why not just enjoy it on a regular basis in a way that still allows you to meet your fitness goals?
Okay, all right. So if your company Flex Coach is helping people to kind of get to their fitness goals, whatever they might be. So what's the first thing that you do when someone, you know, comes to you and they're just like, okay, I don't know what to do. Like, is a personal trainer even worth it? Like, what do I actually need from you? And what do you do to kind of like help them start moving towards that fitness goal?
Well, probably if they came to me with no idea what they needed to do and were asking me if a personal trainer was even worth it, I would tell them, no, go home and look up some stuff on Google first. Um,
Okay.
it's absolutely, because it's not worth, if you don't even know what you're trying to do, then no, it's not worth it.
Okay.
Really, I wouldn't do it. Let's say, okay, let's say I was actually going to consult them on how though to proceed forward. At first, I wouldn't do anything. The
Okay.
first step would be to really understand what's causing them to be where they are, right? Like I said in the beginning, our lives are a lot more complex, and our health is not exclusive from other factors in our life, right? Our health, our work, our sort of our community, our relationships, these all, our mental state, these are all connected together, right?
Hmm.
And a lot of times people think that they have issues with their health when they don't. Really, they
Right.
have issues with their mental state, which is caused by issues at work, which is also affected because of something at home. And they all sort of catastrophically connect together, resulting in, let's say, over, weekend stress eating or something.
Mm.
So
Oh,
a
I
lot of,
used to do that all the time, man. Like when I had this horrible teaching job, like maybe 4 or 5 years ago now, that was stressing me out like crazy. And on the way to the station, the only thing at the station was a 7-Eleven, and the train would come every sort of 10 minutes or so. And as I was walking towards the train, I could see whether the train was coming on the train tracks or not. So if I saw the train for a good long, 2 or 3 minutes of that walk towards the station. So if I saw the train going and I was like, okay, I missed that train, I've got to wait 10 minutes more for the next train. Of course, I'm going to dip into the 7-Eleven and pick up like one of those sticks of karaage or like an ice
yep.
cream or both, and stress eat because, I had a really stressful job. So, yeah, I can totally see that.
Yeah, exactly. So really the first step in any program, and this isn't even if just people work with me, this, if anyone is looking to sort of get on top of their fitness or their health, what they need to do is first actually take some time to reflect on what they're actually doing, right?
Mm.
You know,
And
what
why? And why?
exactly, and why. Sometimes the why is more important than the what. You know, if you can figure out that, yeah, like, okay, actually a lot of your extra calories is coming from that one 7-Eleven every day on your way home from work, then maybe your problem isn't what you're eating. Maybe the problem is the road you take home.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there's a good book about that, the Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg, which had a kind of point where it's like trigger cue behavior, right? So like the trigger is like seeing something that reminds you of a thing that you did, right? So for me, it might have been like seeing the 7-Eleven at the station, which was kind of a regular occurrence. And for me in my brain, I was associating 7-Eleven with karaage and ice cream. And so that association then triggers the cue, which makes you feel like, okay, so I want ice cream. If I didn't see the 7-Eleven, like if I was just going home, if I were like if somehow able to walk home or take a taxi home or something, I wouldn't see that, and then I wouldn't even feel like I want this karaage or ice cream. I wouldn't feel like I want the snack. So yeah, there's definitely something to like being like the sort of part of your brain that's just like, oh yeah, how about this, and sort of reinforcing that trigger with like daily or frequent behavior.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes, if you can recognize what the trigger is, you can just take that out of the equation by not putting yourself in that situation. And then of course there are unavoidable situations sometimes, but if you're aware of your trigger and you're aware of your habits, then you can still take steps to minimize the damage, right? Not minimize the damage, right? So maybe you go into the convenience store, and instead of getting the karaage, you get a sandwich,
Right.
Or maybe you get a protein bar,
or some like almonds or something like that. Yeah.
Or something else, right? So
that's the first thing that I did actually, was I switched to buying a bag of the mixed nuts, like it had like walnuts, almonds, and peanuts and stuff. And I feel like that's a lot more healthy than a lot of the other stuff they have available.
Exactly. And I think what you just said is so important. And this is like, if the one piece of advice I can leave for everyone is those 2 or 3 words, which is a little bit more healthy. That's it. That's all people need to do, is like, and this goes back to sort of the first question you asked me, like, what are the mistakes that people make? Why are people, what are they doing wrong in their programs? And people try to do too much, and then they fail, and then they give up. Right. Oh, it doesn't work. Oh, I can't diet. I can't stop eating sweets. And that's not true. The problem is they're just trying to do way too much at one time. We humans are not good at changing very quickly. We're programmed to stay the same,
Right.
But
that's why I never had those New Year's resolutions to like go to the gym more or something. It never worked for me before. What worked for me was thinking, okay, what do I actually want to achieve by going to the gym? How is it actually going to help me? And for me, it really started with back pain, right? Like I had this, at the time I was working with kids, but they were like elementary school kids. And so like kindergarten kids, you can pick up and they weigh like 10 kilos and it's fine. Elementary school kids weigh a lot more and they're a lot faster. And they're very playful, like they want to run around and stuff. And so
they'll end up kick and pull your hair also.
Right. And they'll like climb on they'll like grab your legs, and you're like moving around, like trying to kick them off, and they find it hilarious, and it's great fun. Like I loved teaching kids. It was one of the best times of my life. But it also, that was when I started to get like back pain, because I was like picking up these kids to stop them from like fighting or things like that. And so I started to get this back pain, and one of my friends really helped me to start working out and working on my back and strengthening those muscles, because I wasn't working on them enough to keep them strong for that. And I've had very few back pain issues since, and that was really helpful. So like you said, it's really about finding like what your purpose is for going to the gym. Like why do you, or like not just going to the gym, but also eating healthy. Like what is it you want to do? Is it you want to be stronger and healthy, like and that kind of leads me to my next question, which is one of the ones that I'm sure like everyone asks from fitness people all the time. I'm sure you get this question all the time, but like, so it's 3 months until summer, hopefully beaches will be open and people will be able to go and enjoy themselves. How do you get that beach body, and how do you like get rid of that fat around your abs so that you can look awesome on the beach?
Oh yeah, no, I do get asked that a lot, and I have an unfortunate answer for you that a lot of people are not gonna like. Oh yeah, here it comes. You ready? Brace yourself. Yeah, there's no way to just get rid of that fat on your stomach.
Okay.
So this is a common, I see this all the time. People come to me, right around April, May, coming up to summer, and usually it's people that are not ridiculously overweight. It's people that are healthy, but they want to look better at the beach, right?
Right.
I'm like, I've got this extra bit, right here on my stomach that I want to get rid of. How do I just do that? And I always I hate seeing their disappointed looks when I tell them there's no way to reduce fat just around your stomach.
Right.
So your body burns fat from like we don't really actually, I mean, I don't have a degree in this, so I don't actually understand exactly how your body chooses where it does to burn fat, but the myth that you can just spot reduce fat around your stomach is completely out of this world. This is just like a way to sell you more supplements and fat burning products. The only way to get in beach body shape in 3 or 4 months is by really controlling what you eat carefully and doing a relatively decent exercise program. It's actually not so much your workout, it's more about what you eat.
Yeah, because that's the difficult part of it, because like you said, Japanese food is so good, and I find myself often just like going for like tonkatsu, like even sushi, right? Like you don't realize when you're eating it because it seems like it's really healthy, it's fish, but you know, like you've got fish, you've got like rice with it. By the time you finish like 10 12 pieces of sushi, that's quite a lot of rice you've eaten, you know, like it's a lot of stuff that maybe isn't helping you get to your fitness goals. So what are some ways, like especially in Japan, to sort of avoid some of those things while still being able to really enjoy Japanese food?
Well, I think the easiest way is to use a system called If It Fits Your Macros. And this is not my system. This is all over the internet. You can Google it and they'll give you a whole plan of how to do it. Another way people call it is flexible dieting. And the first step is you have to understand how much energy your body is actually using on a daily basis, right? If you don't know how much energy your body uses, then you don't know how to eat less than that, right? So that's the first step. And that's actually not very difficult to calculate. Again, there's a lot of free calculators on the internet that'll tell you relatively accurately, based on your body type and your age and your height and weight, how much calories your body burns on a given day. And then you have to eat less than that. That's all it is.
Okay.
Now,
it seems simple, but it's not that easy.
It's not. So again, this comes back to eating out is very difficult in Japan because you often don't know how many calories are actually in the food you're eating. And if you don't know how much you're eating, then again, you don't know if you're eating less than your body needs. And the only way, scientifically proven, not me, scientifically proven, the only way to lose weight is to eat less calories than your body needs. That's it. It's very, very simple. It's calories in versus calories out. Calories out meaning the amount of calories your body burns to keep you alive and do everything you do, right? So if you eat more than that, you gain weight. If you eat less than that, you lose weight. So again, when you eat out, that's very difficult because you don't know. Now, one way you can control it, not really control it, you can do that a little bit better is to use the hand portion system by Precision Nutrition. And basically what this is you can have a relatively good estimate about how many calories are in major foods based on the size. So for example, like one palm full of meat is about 75 to 100 grams, typically.
Okay.
Of course, depending on how big your hand is, that'll change. But basically, if you want to lose weight, you should eat one palm size of meat for every meal, one cupped handful of carbohydrates. This could be rice or noodles or, beans, and then 1 to 2 fistfuls of vegetables.
Okay.
Now, if you do that, you're probably, for 3 meals a day, again, 1 palm of meat, 1 cup of rice, 1 cupped handful of rice or carbs, and 1 to 2 fists of veggies, you're probably eating under your body's required calories.
Wow, that makes me think like how often I have eaten so much more than my cupped handful of noodles. Like even going to just like the average udon place, I'll always pick like the futsu size or like the oki bowl of udon because I like it and it tastes so good.
Yeah.
But maybe I should go for that smaller bowl because it's going to be like less than the sort of cupped handful of carbohydrates, and then maybe get some like I don't know, some almonds or something from the convenience store on my way back or something, rather than having like this huge bowl of udon.
Exactly. It doesn't mean now if you're really hungry, you should eat enough to make you full. Like I'm not saying don't eat if you're hungry, but then maybe count that as 2 cupfuls of carbs then. So then if you had 1 cup you had some carbs during breakfast, and then lunch you had a big bowl of udon, then you might say that's your limit for carbs for the day.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
And then for dinner, have something that's mostly meat and vegetables. Or
Awesome.
if you're really active and you're so hungry, maybe you've got a paper you got to fill out and you need some brain energy, then take that out of your next day. So, okay, I had too many carbs today, so tomorrow I'm going to have a lower carb meal. It's not just one day. You can look at it from the whole week. So in that whole week, how many handfuls are you eating? And so this makes it really easy then, for example, like if you want to eat a hamburger. So bun on top is 1, bun on bottom is 2, meat is 1. And there you go.
Right. Yeah, that's super useful, man. Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast and talking to us about this. Like the food and the workout stuff. Like I know a lot of people find it really complicated, and I've been trying to figure this out for a couple of years, but like I learned so much from you already. So where can people find you if they're interested in learning more about what you do?
Well, they should definitely hit me up on Facebook. That's where I post most of our content. We do a lot of workouts as well as nutrition information and coaching advice in our free Facebook group, so they can hit me up there. They can also find us on our website at coaching.flexfithealth.com.
Okay.
That's where we have all of our coaching services. But really, I love talking about fitness and health. If people want help, they should just send me a message and I'm happy to chat with them anytime.
Awesome. Cool. I'll put
or
links
join
to
me
all
and
that
you
stuff.
in the gym.
Yeah, exactly. We should just like set up a group and just like go hit the gym together. All right. Awesome.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Ben. See you again next time.